Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Shrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 12, Birth of Emperor Parikshit, text number 16. Daivena pratigatena shukle samstam upeyushi ratu vonu grahataya Vishnuna prabha Vishnuna. Daivena, by supernatural power. Apratigatena, by what is irresistible. Shukle, unto the pure. Sangstam, destruction. Upeyushi, having been forced. Rataha, restored. Va, for you. Anugraha artaya, for the sake of obliging. Vishnuna, by the all-pervasive Lord. Prabha Vishnuna, by the all-powerful. Translation. The Brahmana said, the spotless sun has been restored by the all-powerful and all-pervasive Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, in order to oblige you. He was saved when he was doomed to be destroyed by an irresistible supernatural weapon. Purport. The child Parikshit was saved by the all-powerful and all-pervasive Vishnu, Lord Krishna, for two reasons. The first reason is that the child in the womb of his mother was spotless due to his being a pure devotee of the Lord. The second reason is that the child was the only surviving male descendant of Puru, the pious forefather of the virtuous king Yudhishthira. The Lord wants to continue the line of pious kings to rule over the earth as his representatives for the actual progress of a peaceful and prosperous life. After the battle of Kurukshetra, even up to the next generation of Maharaj Yudhishthira was annihilated, and there were none who could generate another son in the great royal family. Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Abhimanyu, was the only surviving heir apparent in the family, and by the irresistible supernatural Brahmastra weapon of Ashwatthama, he was forced to be annihilated. Lord Krishna is described here as Vishnu, and this is also significant. Lord Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, does the work of protection and annihilation in his capacity of Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. The all-pervasive activities of the Lord are executed by him in his Vishnu feature. Child Parikshit is described here as spotlessly white because he is an unalloyed devotee of the Lord. Such unalloyed devotees of the Lord appear on the earth just to execute the mission of the Lord. The Lord desires the conditioned souls hovering in the material creation to be reclaimed, to go back home, back to Godhead. And thus he helps them by preparing the transcendental literatures like the Vedas, by sending missionaries of saints and sages, and by deputing his representative, the spiritual master. Such transcendental literatures, missionaries, and representatives of the Lord are spotlessly white because the contamination of the material qualities cannot even touch them. They are always protected by the Lord when they are threatened by annihilation. Such foolish threats are made by the gross materialists. The Brahmastra, which was thrown by Ashwatthama at the child Parikshit, was certainly supernaturally powerful, and nothing of the material world could resist its force of penetration. But the all-powerful Lord, who is present everywhere, within and without, could counteract it by his all-powerful potency, just to save a bona fide servant of the Lord and descendant of another devotee, Maharaj Yudhishthira, who was always obliged by the Lord by his causeless mercy. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivendanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudiya Vaishnavism Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskita Rishatari Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The verse was, the Brahmana said, the spotless sun has been restored by the all-powerful and all-pervasive Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, in order to oblige you. He was saved when he was doomed to be destroyed by an irresistible supernatural weapon. Srila Prabhupada makes a very interesting point about Krishna's nature. Said when Krishna is acting in this material world for the benefit of his devotees in this material world by being all pervasive, being everywhere, protecting them and so on, he's taking the form of Lord Vishnu to do so. So usually when we speak about Krishna being present in this world, we're speaking about Lord Vishnu. And although they are the same, they are different. It's like when any one of us goes to work, at work we are a little bit different type of person than we are at home with our families and friends, isn't it? We are playing a role. At home we are most ourselves, isn't it? At least that's how it's supposed to be. If we have to play a role of husband, father, wife, son, and don't feel it, then something is not as it should be. But at home, amongst our family and friends, we are really fully ourselves. And then when we go out into the world and fulfill our different duties, we don't manifest all of what there is within us, within our personality, but we assume certain roles. We hide certain aspects of our personalities. We put other things more into the focus and so on. So Krishna is doing just the same. Krishna is described in Shrimad Bhagavatam in the 10th canto as a beautiful cowherd boy who just plays all day with his friends, who herds the cows, who plays his flute, who meets his beloved gopis at night and so on. He has no business of running after demons, killing demons. He has no business worrying about anything. But because Krishna does worry about his devotees, he appears in this material world also, simultaneously. And this is something that is mind-blowing to us. And that's something that we cannot fathom with our material conception of this world, because we can only be in one place at the same time. I can be here or I can be somewhere else. I cannot be here and somewhere else simultaneously. It's not possible. I cannot be here and be at home in my bed at the same time. But Krishna can be in different places at the same time as himself, not as a clone. Nowadays we think, well, maybe Krishna just cloned himself, just created a copy of himself that looks like him and acts like him, but is actually someone else. No, Krishna as himself, he is simultaneously in different places at the same time, but playing different roles. So when Krishna comes into this material world, he does so as Vishnu with the express purpose of protecting his devotees and annihilating the demons. And therefore, Prabhupada often put quite some emphasis on the point that when Krishna did appear in this material world 5,000 years ago, he did so as himself, as Vrindavan Krishna, Shyam Sundar Krishna. This was not just a different manifestation, a different form of Vishnu. All the other avatars that we find described in the Shrimad Bhagavatam, they are different forms of Vishnu, different incarnations of Vishnu that we find in this world. So Krishna is breaking his own rules, so to speak. Usually he's appearing in this world to do his work as Vishnu, but then just to please the devotees and to restore the balance of the universe, he had to come as himself fully, with all his friends and family, and manifest the very essence of the spiritual world in this material world. So Krishna is very, very wonderful because he creates this material world in a certain way in which he, by design, is ever present, everywhere, all the time. And on top of that, because devotees are in distress, and because the material world is taking a turn for the worse, on top of that, he appears just as himself, fully, completely, as well. And he did so again. Some people have this conception that God is cruel because he created this world and then left us alone within it. Have you ever heard that? Some people say that. God is a very cruel being. It's a Christian idea, but you find it in other philosophies as well. That God is very cruel. Why did he create this and then so difficult to find? But from the Shrimad Bhagavatam, we hear that God is not cruel at all, the very opposite. He's the very opposite of being cruel. He's loving, he's caring constantly. Because by design, he weaved his presence into the very fabric of this material world. The Brahman energy is everywhere. Krishna's effulgence, Krishna's energy is everywhere, in every single atom. And on top of that, he is personally present in every single atom as the Supersoul. And on top of that, he is present in this material world in all different kinds of manifestations, as Vishnu, as the different deities, as the different incarnations, as his representatives in the form of the Shrimad Bhagavatam, of the spiritual master of the Vaishnavas. And on top of that, as if that would not be enough, he comes personally with his entire entourage of very intimate friends and family. And then he does so again and again and again. He appeared a little over 5,000 years ago, and then again, seeing that after leaving this material world in that form, leaving it in the care of his devotees, gradually the state of the material world was deteriorating to such an extent that his devotees became fewer and fewer and fewer. And the influence of his personal presence became less and less and less. The fuel that keeps this material world going, as described in the fourth canto of the Shrimad Bhagavatam, as lust. Like every other machine, also this world needs some kind of fuel to keep running. Some kind of battery that has to be charged, that gives it the energy. And this energy that keeps this material world turning and turning and turning is the lust of the conditioned souls. We keep it going by our desire to enjoy. If all of us would give up this desire to enjoy, there would be no more need for cars to drive around out there. There would be no more need for anybody to do anything. This world would come to a halt, to a stop. But because we have this constant desire to enjoy it, to find something new, something tasty, something interesting, something beautiful, we keep struggling and striving in this world, and we keep it moving and going. And this can take extreme forms. We all know from our own lives, maybe, some more extreme versions of this lusty desire in the form of addictions, or greed, selfishness, self-centeredness. But also on a larger scale, this lusty desire takes on extreme forms. The form of fascism, all other kinds of isms, sexism, chauvinism, materialism. That's all based on the same thing. I want to enjoy over everyone else's desire and need to enjoy. Me first. Make me great again. So this sometimes takes extreme forms. We all have, well, fortunately most of us don't have memories of the recent historic events in this regard, but at least our parents or grandparents might have. When fascist leaders take over the rule in the world, out of the same extreme desire to put themselves over everyone else. So therefore Krishna appears regularly in his entirety. And he did so after coming 5,000 years ago and eventually ending his pastimes here. He did so again in the form of Lord Chaitanya. This time in disguise. He covered himself. And he covered himself in the most beautiful disguise ever. Krishna disguised himself in the veil of the ecstatic feelings of Radharani. It's like Krishna putting a piece of cloth over his head, and this piece of cloth was made from the ecstatic love that Radharani feels. So that he appeared to be just another devotee. And many people were confused. They did not recognize Lord Chaitanya as Krishna. They thought, no, he's just an ecstatic monk. Or some even thought he's kind of a weirdo. So first he appeared as a scholar. Then when he started to manifest his ecstatic pastimes, many thought he's just strange. He's just really weird. He just sings all day. Who does that? Who does that? There's a pastime when Lord Chaitanya was doing, in this time when he was doing kirtan in Navadvip, in the house of Srivas Pandit, there was some time where devotees, they would not talk to each other anymore normally. They would just say Hari Bol. That was the only word they used. Hari Bol. Oh, Hari Bol. Hari Bol? Yeah, Hari Bol. And they were in ecstasy the whole time, just chanting the own holy name. And that was all that was needed to express whatever need or desire or feeling or intention they had. And everybody understood each other. It's kind of strange, isn't it? If we would witness this, we would think, what's going on there? But they were all ecstatic. I myself, I had a very insignificant, tiny experience of something like that. A few weeks ago, unfortunately, a very dear friend of mine, Mangal Prabhu, passed away. He was a Sankirtan hero in Germany. And once I was for 3 weeks on book distribution with him, a long time ago. And in these 3 weeks, we maybe exchanged 10 sentences. We were just chanting and distributing. And whenever, Hare Krishna, oh, Hari Bol. And then we just went along our business. And there was no need. And we felt completely fulfilled socially. Afterwards, we both were reflecting, we're thinking, well, this was quite interesting. This was quite strange. For all this time, we didn't speak to each other, but there was no need. We were just connected on a different level. So, there's not always a big need for talking a lot. But some outsider might think, well, these guys are really weird. So some thought that Lord Chaitanya was very strange. Some even got scared of him. Especially the ruling class at that time. They got scared of him. They saw that there was a political aspect to what he was doing. Lord Chaitanya was not a politician. He was not an activist. He was just busy giving people love of God. There was no ulterior motive in that. It was a pure intention. But it developed into a social movement, and so people became afraid of Lord Chaitanya. But Lord Chaitanya was Krishna himself, Shyam Sundar himself. And he revealed himself as such to different devotees. And we have witness statements of devotees who heard from these Vaishnavas. And it is written down, so we can know about it. But Lord Chaitanya himself, he even got angry when he was called Krishna, when he was called Vishnu. When Lord Chaitanya was staying in Jagannath Puri, the devotees were going on Harinam Sankirtan every day. They would do a procession through Jagannath Puri doing kirtan. And sometimes Advaita Acharya would lead this procession. And he was described as a big person, strong like a lion, very energetic, very forceful. He would lead these roaring kirtans. And then when they came to Gambhira, to the place where Lord Chaitanya was staying, they would start to chant, Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. And Lord Chaitanya would sit inside and would hold his ears. Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. I don't want to be glorified. I don't want this. And the kirtan would get more tumultuous and roaring. The walls of the Gambhira started to shake. I mean, just imagine thousands of devotees like full on kirtan. So at some point, Lord Chaitanya came out of the door. All the devotees bowed down and the kirtan stopped. And then Lord Chaitanya, he chastised Advaita Acharya. He said, "What are you doing? This is complete nonsense what you do. Stop this immediately. Why are you glorifying me? You should glorify Krishna." And Advaita Acharya said, "But you are this Krishna. You are the Supreme Personality of God." And again, Lord Chaitanya held his ears and said, "No, I'm not. I'm just a servant of Krishna." Why was Krishna doing this? Why do you think he was messing with his devotees? Just imagine, we would meet Krishna and realize that, "Oh, I've met Krishna." And said, "Oh, Krishna." Said, "No, I'm not Krishna." We would be confused, isn't it? Why do you think why do you think Lord Chaitanya was doing that to his devotees? Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I think he wanted to set a proper example. I guess people would not getting puffed up and saying,
Exactly. Just as Krishna appears in this world with a mission, also Lord Chaitanya appeared in this world with a very specific mission. That was to set a higher standard of service to himself. So he was always acting as a devotee of himself. And only in very rare occasions, within a very small circle of very pure devotees, he revealed himself as Krishna himself. But usually he was following his external mission to teach the world how to worship Krishna ecstatically, how to chant the holy names. So this is the kindness, this is the love of Krishna, that he appears in this world, that he does not leave us alone in this material creation. The very opposite is true. Krishna is always present with us, all around us, within us, in front of us, behind us. As we sing when we sing the Nrsimha prayers, he's seeing us in front of me, he's behind me, he's inside, he's outside, he's everywhere. Krishna is everywhere. And it is up to us to realize this truth, not to imagine it. It's nothing to imagine, it's to realize a fact that Krishna is present everywhere. By design in this world. And on top of being here by design, he comes out of his loving compassion in different forms to support us, to help us. Krishna is doing all this for us. So when we become aware of this, what other choice do we have than to feel gratitude? If you just think how much support we get from him, constantly, we can be so grateful, we can be so happy. But as soon as we start to think, I am the controller, I'm the one in charge, we forget this fact that Krishna is within us, around us, everywhere. And we start to feel very alone in this world. It's a very lonely world when you don't become aware of this fact that Krishna is here. And you start to feel like this lone fighter who has to fight against the forces of material nature, fighting to the top, fighting to survive. Material life is a constant fight to survive. It's even one of the major principles in this world, isn't it? Entropy. As soon as as fighting stops or as activity stops, things start to fall apart. So we have to, in this material world, if we have a material consciousness, we have to constantly fight to survive. Otherwise, the material energy will just wash us away. What that means is that we degrade in our consciousness. We might lose our advanced position of being in Rajagun, being in passion, being active, and sink down to Tamagun. Don't want to get up. Don't want to work. Don't want to do anything. don't want to be healthy, don't want to be happy. I'm depressed. I need some pills. Maybe they will help. As soon as we stop struggling in this world for survival, the material energy comes crashing. But even to be happy in this material world, the solution is to surrender to Krishna. We also hear this here in the beginning of the purport, and we talked about this several times in the last few weeks, that Krishna, he does not force himself on his conditioned souls. He doesn't appear in this material world to force everybody to surrender to him and become a happy, blissful devotee. He also comes here to just help us be happy in this material world. That's why it is important to Krishna that there are, as it described here, pious leaders, servants of God who are leading society, so that materially people can be happy, can be materially successful. Not even speaking of spiritual happiness, just material happiness. So Krishna is also concerned about that. Krishna is not a fanatic. Krishna does not think, oh, surrender to me or suffer eternally. Krishna even takes care of our material well-being by giving us an instruction manual how to be happy in this world in the form of Bhagavad Gita, by giving us people in leadership positions who have deeper values, higher values, who help us attain happiness in this world, who gives us principles of morality, of ethics in this world, how to lead a happy and healthy life, how to connect ourselves to higher energies in this world, so we stay healthy, we stay balanced. All this comes from Krishna. But beyond that, there's so much more, of course. So when I read this, I feel great gratitude to Krishna that he is taking care of us so perfectly. All we have to do is stop acting like stupid little children who just refuse the care and help of their parents. No, but I want to do it myself. Bam! Ow! Oh! Oh! Why did I hurt myself? Well, could have taken my advice or taken my help. No problem. That's all we have to do. Take the help, and Krishna will make us happy all around. Okay, maybe you have some questions or comments.
To the Shikshastra come. So in the second verse, Chaitanya says, by chanting the holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. And so he says he has no attraction, but it's also stated that, like, for example, sometimes when he sees Jagannatha and something crying so much that the river of tears is created. So yeah, I'm not, how can you say it? And, on the other hand, you see that he has like this intensive experiences.
You have to see this in context with the next verse. How does Lord Chaitanya say you can chant the holy name at all? By being more humble than a piece of grass in the street? Sometimes something that we think is a problem of a piece of grass in the street, right? Let's put this in our Berlin context. It's picking up a stepped on piece of chewing gum off the sidewalk. That's how humble you should be. Something that everybody steps on. You should be more tolerant than a tree. So, but this humility is not just something that, oh yes, I'm so humble. Hare Krishna. I'm so humble. Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. This humility is sincere, is deep felt, is real. And if you're humble, even though you are ecstatically chanting the holy name, you think, oh Krishna, I don't even have a drop of attraction to you. But this humility becomes the source of your ecstasy. Because you feel so insignificant, so unconnected to Krishna. And in this feeling of desperation, you are so much more connected to Krishna. Does that make sense to you? It's a little, it might seem like a like a paradox a little bit, right? In order to be the highest, you have to be the lowest. But that's what spiritual life means. You put yourself in this consciousness that Krishna, I have no love for you. But if you really feel it, your surrender to Krishna will be so sincere, so intense that actually that is love. Full surrender. If you start to think, oh yes, Krishna, I love you, false ego comes and says, oh, now you made it, now you're nice devotee. And the attraction is finished. So Lord Chaitanya, he says those things. One could argue, well, he says those things again to give an example. A devotee, that's how a devotee should express himself. Oh Krishna, I have no attraction to you. And for us on our level, if we are a little bit honest with ourselves, we can agree with that statement. At least I don't have any attraction to the Holy One. I don't start shooting tears out of my eyes when I chant. My hairs don't stand on end. I don't faint. Those are natural expressions of a devotee in ecstasy. He cannot control it. It's not something that he gets himself into a yogic state and now I feel ecstatic. No, it just overcomes him. Uncontrollable feelings, emotions of ecstasy. That's what happens when you have true attraction to the Holy One. You can't stop chanting. Who here cannot stop chanting? Who here is happy when he finishes his rounds? Who here keeps an eye on the counter beats while chanting his rounds once a minute? It's a different state of mind, isn't it? So, on the one hand, Lord Chaitanya, of course, is saying this to give us an example of what kind of consciousness we should have. And also, it is an expression of true humility. And it is also the state of mind of an advanced devotee. Look at Bhaktivinoda Thakur, pure devotee of Krishna. But what kind of prayers does he write? I'm the most fallen. I'm completely materialistic. No attraction to you. I just lust after women and money. Does it mean he's a materialist who sometimes chants a little bit? No. It's a pure devotee feeling sincerely that Krishna, you are so wonderful and I'm nothing. I'm no one. But by your kindness, by your grace, you bring me to your lotus feet. And then what's the next step? Keep reading to the end of Shikshashtakam. What is Lord Chaitanya saying then? Krishna, you can embrace me, or you can break my heart by never being visible to me. I don't care. All I want is you. So there is kind of a progression in emotions in a devotee. It starts with humility, sincere, heartfelt humility. And if it's not sincere and heartfelt, one can try to put himself in this position a little bit. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is teaching us. If you don't feel humble, reflect a little bit about who you are and what you're doing. You'll be humble, don't worry, if you're honest with yourself. But also it is a sincere feeling. Devotees do feel pride. They also feel pride. They feel humble and they feel proud. But what are they proud of? They're proud of Krishna. They're proud of the spiritual master. They're proud of the Vaishnavas. But they themselves, what do they think? Who do they think they are? Servant, 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 servant. They're no one. And this position of being no one is the position of being the best one. As long as we attempt or strive to be number one, we never do things for the right reason. If you want to be the best devotee, you'll never be the best devotee. If you don't care who you'll be, you just want to serve, then you'll be the best devotee. Does that answer your question? In our songbook, there's a nice purport to the Shikshashtakam prayers. In this BBT, not in the big yellow one, but in the one that's published by the BBT. We don't have it in German here, but in English. So there's a nice, Prabhupada gave nice lectures on it. You can find. Also, if you go to vanipedia.org, you look there for the Shikshashtakam, you also find a lot of statements of Prabhupada on those books.
Thank you for the nice lecture. You mentioned the story about and Advaita Acharya during fight Shri Chaitanya, the Buddha Sankirtan, and sometimes Lord Gauranga reveals his glory, and sometimes he hides it. Can you explain the difference in what situation is he revealed or hides?
To the public, he was hidden because to the public he was following his expressed mission of showing the world how to serve Krishna. But then in the association of his most intimate devotees, there were a few instances where he revealed himself as Krishna. One of this very famous occurrence of the Mahaprakash Lila, where in the house of Srivas they were doing kirtan, and then suddenly Lord Chaitanya is going towards the altar where the Shalagram Shila is, pushes the Shalagram Shila a little to the side and sits himself down on the altar and says, "Come and worship." Just imagine that, You do kirtan with, they all feel natural attraction to Lord Chaitanya. And suddenly, the one who was always telling we should all just glorify Krishna, I'm just a devotee, he starts to sit down on the altar, ask the devotee, worship me. And on top of that, what is he doing? Revealing his forearm form. So he's not just, to make it very clear, no room for misunderstanding here. Not just a devotee who has gone a little crazy, a little over-enthusiastic. No, Krishna, Lord Chaitanya is revealing his form as Krishna. And then, of course, we know that, he calls up the different devotees to pay obeisances and worship him. And then he reveals their eternal forms, their eternal relationships to each other that go beyond the Chaitanya Lila. Then there are a few other occurrences. I forgot the name. There was this one devotee who had this appearance of Lord Chaitanya in the Sadbhuja form. Do you remember what devotee that was? Yeah, but we also hear that. Then there is this devotee who was meditating of worshiping Lord Chaitanya in his mind, and then also when he bowed down, when he came up, he saw that Lord Chaitanya was a combined form of Radha and Krishna. So there are these occurrences, but they happen within the hearts of the devotees, the pure devotees, and we hear it because the devotees reveal their hearts to others. In public, that didn't happen because that would contradict Lord Chaitanya's mission. Yeah. I can't remember a single time where, we hear those like miracles that Lord Chaitanya performed, like appearing simultaneously in the Ratha Yatra in different kirtan groups, or like jumping so high in the air like no human being could do, landing so hard on the ground that there would be earthquakes, dancing with animals, embracing tigers. Those are all things. But those one, we also hear about the animals, for example. We also, in our Western context, we have saints who are said to have had those intimate relations to animals. So that by itself would not, one could not argue on that basis or that he is God, just because he's performing miracles in our eyes. So I can't think of any occurrence where it's described that he was really manifesting himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in public. And the few times where he was glorified as such, he would stop it. So what? No, also in his childhood, there is this occurrence where the Brahmana came to the house of Lord Chaitanya's parents, and when he was doing the offering, small baby Gauranga would come and eat the offering off the plate, and then the Brahmana would say, oh yeah, what's going on? And Lord Chaitanya's father would come in and chastise him. What are you doing? There's the offering to Krishna going on, and you're stealing from the plate. What's happening? Get out of here. And this would go on, 2-3 times, and then eventually the Brahmana said, okay, I give up. I will fast today. And then Lord Chaitanya said, what's the problem? You offer to me and I come and eat it. You should be happy. And this Brahman understood that, this little child, this is Krishna. But again, in the context of a closed space, not to the public. And actually, Lord Chaitanya asked this Brahmana, what you've understood today, you should not reveal to anyone ever. Keep this as your secret. So yeah, we know about it through the descriptions of the devotees after he had left. Post factum, this is very important because it would have disturbed his mission. If he wants to give an example how to serve Krishna, and he is Krishna, then how does that work? He wouldn't be one of us, so to speak. That is the beauty of Lord Chaitanya, that for someone not aware of this fact, he's just one of us. With a biography, with his struggles in this world, and then becoming a devotee of Krishna and becoming ecstatic. Giving us confidence. Why is he doing this? To give all of us confidence that each of us can attain this ecstatic love for Krishna. I mean, if we have a very external view on Lord Chaitanya's biography, he had intense struggles in his life. He lost his brother. His wife died. His first wife died. It's traumatic. I mean, I can't imagine my wife dying in an accident, so it's a traumatic. Just, to get this perspective, it's a traumatic experience. Then, after the death of his father, feeling completely disconnected to his work, seeing no more value in what he was doing. Nowadays, we would describe this as a midlife crisis. And then turning to Krishna and completely changing his life. So if we have this very external view on Lord Chaitanya's life, it is a blueprint of inspiration for all of us, that we can change our lives completely. We just turn to Krishna. We also go through difficult times. We also have our struggles. We also feel disconnected. But if we turn to Krishna, our life will be ecstatic. That's what Lord Chaitanya was trying to teach through his example. So if he would break his role, that would have completely disturbed this purpose, this external purpose of his appearance on this world. His internal purpose was, of course, to experience the love that Radharani has for himself. But this was going on in private, not in public. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.